actually, and then we used to swim in the canal at a place called the Strone, Strone. Like a sandy beach, actually, and that's where we used to swim. But before that, you swam in the River Kelvin, and when you were good enough, you graduated up to the canal. And when you got there, we didn't have any swimming costumes. Didn't have a bother. Didn't have any towels. But it was out in the country, and it was a very quiet area around Twechar. So we'd get into the canal and swim, and they used to say, "Oh, can you cross the canal yet?" That's one side to the other. And so that was the first thing you did. You swam to the other side. And then when you got to the other side, you used to think, "Oh, I want to be able to swim back to where I started," which we did. And then we lit fires, and we collected firewood, and we had a huge fire there. And still no swimming costumes, no towels, but no bothered actually, we only kept swimming costumes if we went to the seaside. For the Glasgow Fair Week, we used to go to Prestwick or Musselburgh, and so we had to have a costume, but we didn't use that costume throughout the year. Oh, Willie Anderson, yes. When we were swimming at the Strone in the canal, when we were drying ourselves, Willie Anderson in his sailor's uniform, he was going to meet his friends who used to swim in a different part of the canal, and we used to see this sailor's figure. And this was 1939, and Willie went down with the Royal Oak in 1939. Yeah, and I think we must have been the last to see him. That was Willie Anderson. Yes, I knew their family, his brothers, sisters and all that, yeah.
We had a wee fella Anderson. It's only 18, I think, and he joined the Navy. Next thing was it up the very north of Scotland, down at the Royal Oak or something like that. Now, wee Mrs. Anderson used to come out of our house. A wee blade. She lost William. He hated when we come in and greeted me. And he felt sorry for them. And he was a nice boy, William Anderson.
In World War II, my grandpa, he was originally a miner, so he didn't need to sign up, but he decided to anyway, to volunteer, and he went to Africa to fight Rommel in his battalions, and one day they was just fighting as per usual, and a bomb came over, and he was next to his best friend. I'm not sure if it was like his best friend or one he met in the army, and his best friend got blown up right beside him, and my grandpa ended up losing hearing in his right ear and like some sight in his right eye. So.
You kept mentioning we were playing in the gardens, we were making perfume. Who's we?
My pals. It'd be Margaret Mellon, Jennifer Wright, Sharon McGuinness, Pauline Davis, Bridget Hawkey, Margaret McMacken, Anne Hackett. That was all the lassies. And Anne Kelly used to come from Kilside to stay at Margaret Mellon's house because her mammy died when she was born. So it was Uncle Charlie that, her daddy Charlie, brought her up. But during the summer holidays she used to stay in the Mellon's house. And she used to play with us. As I say, we used to go down the park at Mrs. Hawkey's back. It was a big park. And we used to go down there with all the fellas and that at the summertime, and we'd play rounders or tennis when it was Wimbledon time. If we weren't in the park, we would draw on the roads and make tennis courts. And where my pals Pauline stood, she used to have stairs like that, so if you weren't playing and you hadn't been picked, you were sitting there with a kid on umpire, like filming the matches. Or, as I say, we used to have wee concerts, or wee stupid stalls and make money I would go round and chat the doors and ask for ginger bottles to go to the shop so that we could get sweets for to make picnics up, so that we could all go like up the park, up to the swing park or up Castle Hill with our bags and all that, so that we didn't need to ask for mammies for pieces and different things. Or draw like chalky beds and when you played Piva, or chinky ropes. I mean, the bairns don't know nothing like that nowadays. Or you would be sitting waiting in 2 tins coming so you could make stilts with your piercing holes for to make your stilts, or waiting in the tin of polish to be finished so you could get a Piva.
Can you just explain what Piva is?
Your Piva's like where you would throw it into the beds, and you would throw it into one and you would jump, rest, jump, rest, jump, rest, and you go back in there and put it out, but your shoe polished in and you put dirt in it to throw it about. And then in the winter time, it used to be great at Mrs Hockey's Park, because the banking used to come down like this, and you would get, it was all bin, you know, the steel bins you used to get, and you used to get your mammy's lid to have to bin, or all trays, whatever was about, and to see who could get down the hill and land in the burn, because it was, you went down and then it was a park, but it was to see who could go the fastest to land in the burn. And there was, I mean, there would be Owen Mellon and Andrew Green, Joseph Green, Georgie Wright, you know, the guys and all his lasses. But you never read it was called. You just kept going and kept going. Or you would get down the glen and you would get a rope and make a rope swing to see who could swing across the burn. Or who was walking across the pipe at the feeder. The feeder's a wee bit up at the top of the glen that runs. It's all mucky now, it's not the same. But when you think of what we done when we were wee, to what the day now, and it didn't cost you money.
We talk about you in the burn.
In the burn, how we used to swing across the burn, and then you would go down in the summertime and catch wee minnins and get through the pen, or through the pen and up the canal. There used to be Englishmen came fishing, and we used to go down there, and me and my brother, and take them hot tea and all that down through the pen. Or if my mammy made a big pot of soup, you took them our soup. You thought you were a bee's knees because you felt important because these people needed, well, they probably didn't need them, but we thought we were the bee's knees. My mammy used to do home baking and that used to go her as well. But if we would go to Brown's Ferm, my mammy used to work in Brown's Ferm, and they'd milk the cows, and it would be good because if Mrs Brown and them were away in holiday, my mammy would maybe go there to stay, and if folk came for milk, you thought you were a bee's knees, filling the bottle on, putting a wee tap on it. That was brilliant.
When was that?
When?
When?
Oh, when we were wee. I mean, I don't know when we would, maybe about 10, 11, but you thought you were really important because you could put milk in a bottle. If you missed the bus, you could run round down the glen, through the pen and up, because the bus went up and round. By the time you got round the scheme, you were back at the ferm for the bus. But if it was snowing or ice, I mean, you just made sure my ma wasn't looking at the back window, and you'd run across the canal because the ice was that hard and you hadn't that much to stand on.
Did anybody ever fall in?
Aye, but none of us fell in, so it didn't really matter. I mean, when you heard it cracking, you knew you had to go back the way in case you didn't get right across and it cracked right across and you were the one that fell in.
3 years ago, and my mum, back then they didn't get any scans or anything. I had to say that there was something wrong with the baby or what was wrong. Didn't get any scans. But so when I was born, doctor came to my mum and dad and says, "Listen, she's got a lot of things wrong with her. She's only got 3 hours to live. She'll not be able to do anything for herself. She's got spina bifida. I've also got hydrophilic. I don't know if you've heard of that. I've also got that. And they says that she'll not live. She'll not even last the night. She'll not last the next 3 hours. My mum would have done it for me as well. But my dad was always with me. Where my dad went, I went. Where I was, my dad was. We were always together. We were like best friends. No daughter and son. Just daughter and father, best friends we were. So we were. It was just my life. It was absolutely. Daycare centre in Twechar opened for the elderly, and I started in there, and I was there for 20 odd year. I was there. I was there for. In fact, they just shut 4 years ago. 2 weeks before my dad died, they shut, and that was. I think that's how I took giving so hard at the time, because it just was a bad time for me. And I was there, I was there 20 years, I was there. I done volunteering with the elderly, because I love talking to people, and I just, especially old people, I just see their stories, I just think they're great. And I loved it at the time, because I was always with my granny and grandpa, so I was always used to old people, so that's how I started in there. And it was mostly all Twechar people at the time, so I knew them all, so I got on really well with them. I done crafts and all that, and played games with them and all that up there as well. And then I started volunteering in here and at the communities and at the centre with the kids when that shut. And I've never looked back. I'm here nearly every night.
Well, when I was wee, there was still some pits when I was really young at primary school, and then there was a mine as well. Then people worked in the foundry in Kittentilloch, and some people worked in the brickwork as well that was in Twechar. That was a big employer. But when I was wee, mostly the pits or the brickwork.
What can you tell me about the village in terms of shops, vans, pubs or local characters?
Well, when I was wee, there was loads of vans. It was great because you never had any supermarkets. I know you don't think I'm that old, but there was no supermarkets when I was wee. So we had vans every day. So you had the baker's van that came every day, you had the butcher's, you had the fish van came a couple of days. We even had a van that came just maybe once a month, and it was the hot donut van. It just sold hot donuts. Brilliant. You had the rag and bone man, so it was just vans for everything.
What transport was available when you were young?
Well, I'm not that old. So there was buses, there was big double-decker buses, and because hardly anybody had cars, the buses used to be full all the time, so we had buses every half hour going to Kilsyth, Kittentilloch and Glasgow. And they used to go 2 routes. They used to go the Bolton Road to Kittentilloch, and used to also go the top way, so you had the choice. And the bus used to, on the hour, it went up Alexander Avenue side of the scheme, and the half hour it went up Kelvin View side of the scheme.
What can you tell me about Twechar's history?
Well, really the history is the mines. I mean, that's the kind of local history. The Antonine Wall runs right through Twechar, so you know that's now got World Heritage status. But to be honest, when I was growing up, we never really knew anything about the Antonine Wall, and it was kind of in the 70s. Some archaeologists came out to do some research, and that's when they kind of put the information about the Antonine Wall there. But when I was growing up, you know, we never really thought anything about it. We played up there all the time. It's a great place, it's got great views, and we always went up. But it was Castle Hill was what it was named locally. It was never Bar Hill or Antonine Wall.
If I can ask you just to talk, just point and talk.
Okay. This is my gran, who is Susan Thompson. She was Susan Law, born and brought up in Twechar. And this is her 3 youngest daughters, 3 youngest children actually. This is Agnes, who's still alive. She'll be 97 this year. That's my mother. That's Susan Thompson, and that's Sadie Thompson. She's the baby. That's a picture of Joe Thompson, who died, prisoner of war, Malaysia, buried in Malaysia. That's Joe, and that's Bunbury, as it was. I don't know who these 2 men are, but I'm assuming they're from Twechar. My brother thinks one of them might have a surname of MacLeod. And that's something, let's see, I don't know if that's the same 3 men or not. I don't think it is, but that's Joe again. That's them. This is my gran and a Mrs. Pickin.
Sorry, can I?
That's a very old picture.
Crikey, that is.
And that's outside the old Ross, but that's my gran and
Oh, sorry.
a Mrs. Pickin.
Is your gran on the left or the right?
And you're looking at it left.
That's a good photo.
That's John. That's John Thompson. That's my mother's brother. John, older brother. He went away to Kirkcaldy in the pits, but that's my Uncle John.
And do you know anyone else?
No, don't know anybody else in that picture at all. That's Bill Thompson, Uncle Bill. He drove the cooperative van. He worked the cooperative at the end of the All Roads, and he drove this van, and then met his wife there. She was Fakelsive, but Auntie Famie, she worked in the cooperative, so that's where they met.
Was she a grocer's girl?
She was a grocer's girl, yes. She was in Montgomery.
Excellent.
Which
one's your brother?
There. That's William. These are all Twechar people. It was Twechar Primary, but I've not got a year on it, so I don't know. I think he maybe looks about 60 or 7, do you think? Maybe a wee bit old. There's quite a few of them there I still know, you know.
Who do you know on there then?
Oh, jeez. Well, that's William and that's Tom Bell. Don't know. That's Sam Elspie. He's a Leeming, but I don't know his other name. Don't know. John McFarlane. That's Catherine McFadgen. That's Margaret Leishman. That's Muse. Betty Abercrombie. Archie. Don't know his other name. Robert Pender. Lily Slaw. Don't know that person, but I feel I should. That's Roxy Fowler. Margaret Davison. Jean McDougall, and Anne Blake, Margaret Blake. Anne was at school with me. Don't know. I think his surname's Aiken. That's George Boyd. Don't know him either. I think that's Matthew Martin. That's David Kelly. That's Tom Leeming, I think. I think that's Chisholm, somebody Chisholm. I don't know if it was David Chisholm. No, it wasn't David Chisholm. Can't remember his other name. Don't know the teacher's name.
In the first place was it was in the national paper. This 5 council were looking for parents to look after, take 6 children, and they had a house in Kirkcaldy, a 6 apartment house, and we were just like foster parents for the 6 of them, and they were still all very young, still 2 still to go to school and the rest just at primary and 2 just at the high school. And what happened was, they still didn't, after 2 years, parents still didn't come back for them. And that was it. Started to talk about it. I said, well, what's the chance of us taking them through back to Twechar, where I come from? And we've got one of the large houses in MacDonald Crescent. And it all went from there. They're there all the time, and they're still my family. That's it. It started off as being, just taking them on, just to look after them, keep them all together. Which never. The only thing that's happened to us in all this time, I lost my eldest son just about 4 or 5 years ago. He was his activities, he was an engineer, but he liked to go fishing, and he was very badly bitten with insects, and he got septicemia. Within 7 or 8 days he was dead. They said that's the reason, because he was very healthy and probably lots of blood, and that was part of it. So he's the only break in the family, other than the eldest son, actually.
Could you talk me through this photo you've got, please?
Could I show you his photo?
Yeah, could you
That's
talk
him
me
at the very
through?
end. It's Alexander. called Alec.
Handsome man. And who are the others?
This is Elizabeth. This is Helen, the eldest. And Jane, second eldest. Evelyn, she's in her 50s. And Ian, he's in his 50s.
And you said that
Moved
you had
along a wee
children?
bit, you can hardly see Ian, but handsome fellow. They were a handsome family. But as I said already, and now from this family, I have 13 grandchildren, 18 great-grandchildren, and 2 great-great-grandchildren. Yes.
Can I ask you, what was it like taking on 6 children at the same time?
Never thought about it because when my husband and I took them on, it was really just like fostering, and we were there to be their parents. Other than that, there wasn't any other reason for it. I had set out more or less a year before that to adopt a child or 2, and then the letter, the newspaper come up, I think it was the Daily Record, I'm not sure, come up with the... That's something else. I had a picture of the day before I left there to go. And I lived in Glasgow at that point, in Maryhill, because I'd been in the barracks there. And I didn't meet my husband in the army. I met my husband after I came out the army. Strangely enough, he came from Maryhill. So I had a house in Maryhill for about 5 years. And we went from Maryhill to Kirkcaldy with the children. There for about 2.5 years possibly, and then to Twechar. And that's where they all went until they all started to get married. Now, my eldest daughter's in her 60s, and the house is like a telephone booth sometimes. It never stops, you know. They're all phoning one way or another. In fact, one phoned last night when you were in, Jane. She says, I'll phone you tomorrow night, Mum, so she'll maybe phone tonight again.
That's smashing. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Work in the yard.
Went to work for the coal board. I got an apprenticeship and as an electrician because at that time most of the people in the village worked in the pits. So although all the kids were friends, all the men were friends because they all worked together in the pits, and it was more or less just the thing that when you left school you would go and work for the coal board.
You knew there was a job there for you?
There was a job there. When I left school there was jobs for everybody that wanted to work. Maybe the jobs weren't the best of jobs, but there were jobs available for everybody that wanted to work. Again, when I left school, we weren't under the same pressure to do well academically. As I say, there was jobs for everybody, no matter what your talents were, you could always find a job, and there wasn't any pressure to do well or you wouldn't get a job.
So which apprenticeship did you opt for?
I went for an electrician. And at that time, Twechar Yard was there, and that was the workshops for the whole of central Scotland. I would think there must have been at least 500 men worked there, and they did all the supplies for all the different pits, made all the hutches and the rails, and all these things were done at the workshops at Twechar and distributed to all the other pits.
And you also did the housing repairs as well, didn't you?
They did the housing repairs for the coal board houses. Then I went to Bedley workshops. That was the electrical workshops, and I worked there for 6 months as part of the apprenticeship. And then I went to Twechar 1 colliery, and I worked there for 3 years. Twechar 1 colliery closed, and I moved to Grace Hill, and I worked at Grace Hill for 3 years, and Grace Hill closed. Then I moved to Cardown up at Steps, and I worked there for 15 years till Mrs Thatcher decided there wasn't going to be any more pits, and I moved through to Fife to Bogside Mine, and I was told that when we went there we were guaranteed 25 years work. I was there for 6 months. The strike started, the mine got flooded, and I got made redundant from the coal board. And I thought the world had come to an end because there was no more pits, because that was our livelihood. And I thought the world had come to an end.
But anyway, that was the start of my union career. So I was union delegate there from 1975 to it closed in 1983. I was elected onto the Scottish Executive in 1980 for the Tradesmen's Union, and thereafter that was, well, I was always involved in the union then, you know. So that was it. Cardown shut after it. Well, Cardown actually officially shut just before the strike, because they announced the closure of Cardown in 1983 when Albert Wheeler, who was the director in Scotland at that time, coal board director, tried to claim that Cardown, because we produced coking coal and it was a very gassy pit, it was a gassy pit, that he said that if we produced more coal then we'd produce more gas and it wouldn't work, which was a lot of nonsense, you know. So what happened actually, the manager of the colliery at that time, the union were opposing the closure, and we had a mass meeting, and I think it was about 230 out of 250 odd our members turned up this Sunday, and they agreed to oppose the pit closure. That would have been in May 1983 when it was announced, and they just brought in what was called the colliery review procedure, which was supposed to be this new thing where the coal board introduced, where they had an independent chairman who was a QC. So we were the first colliery in Britain to go through that, and it turned out it was a farce anyway, because even if the independent chairman had says you've won your claim and your case and the pit should remain open, the coal board didn't need to take cognizance there. They could still shut the pit. So it was really nonsense. But to be fair to the men at Cardown, the vast majority of the men, and a lot of them were older men who were going to get their redundancy, and the redundancy payments, they were dangling the carrot at that time, they were quite high payments. They stood firm until September, until it went through the review procedure, you know, try and keep the young ones jobs and that. But then it was, as I say, no matter what the review procedure said, it was shutting. And it was a scandal what happened. I always remember it, that Cardown produced high grade coking coal that was used in Ravencraig steelworks, and what Wheeler done and the coal board done at that time was they took away the market to sell it to Ravenscraig and started selling it as an in-mix for steam coal, and that immediately meant that we had £3 million less revenue because of the difference in price between high grade coking coal and steam coal that goes into boilers and that. And that was the power the coal board had at the time. You know, they could manipulate situations to make a pit look uneconomic, which is what they done at Cardown. And that was why eventually, when the strike came in 84-85, the Scottish miners, we'd already seen 6 pits shut for 1981. So we didn't need anybody to tell us we're out in strike, because actually Scotland, Wales and the North East, which had 5 pits shut, Wales had 7. We'd been agitating to try and get the National Union to enter into a dispute to try and save our pits and our communities. And it wasn't delivered, and it was only, we know history now, when Cotton Wood shut that the Yorkshire men walked out. That's how the strike happened. But others had been trying to get that for a period before that. But sometimes they rewrite history, you know, about how it happened. So
in any of the apprenticeships, you could get a job anywhere because the training was that good.
It was. We were very fortunate, because especially electrical and engineering, because electrical, you worked with all different voltages, low voltages, high voltages, and they said if you could work down the pit as an electrician, you could work everywhere, because you wouldn't come across anything outside the pit that you hadn't came across when you worked in the pit. And anybody leaving the pits as a tradesman never had any problems finding jobs anywhere else. I got interested in first aid when I was in the Boys Brigade, and when I went to the coal board, I must say, encouraged first aid, and I joined the Mines Rescue Service when I was with the coal board, and I get training in first aid there, so I was always interested in first aid. And when I went to look for another job, there was a job available at Woodley Psychiatric Hospital, and I thought, I'll try that. And I went there and I got a job in occupational therapy, and I went to Langside College when I was 52 and did a 2-year part-time course in occupational therapy. I finished at that and got a job with the community mental health team, and I worked there till I was 67, and I enjoyed, although it was a different job, I enjoyed that job as well. So I've been very fortunate in my employment.
What can you remember about the Bar Hill Rose then?
Very little. I just was the roads. The policeman on my back used to chase us up and down the road. I know that. But Angus Smith. But it was just a typical miner's rose. That's all it was. Work and play all the time. It was different games at night. That's all we had. And there was no televisions in the days.
So what sort of games did you play?
And 3 levers and hide and seek and different things, you know. Hunch, got a hunch. If you can mind, you'll not mind the things.
No,
you mind them miserable, no? There's a row of men, a row of girls or boys, and you used to jump, and furthest you could jump along them, you know. That was our thing within the days.
So it's like leapfrog?
Leapfrog, just like leapfrog. Hunch, got a hunch, we cried. There were no televisions or nothing in the days. It was out playing all the time.
And did you play up the woods? And
that was my favourite place. It was the Bluebell Woods up there. Just, you mind the Bluebell Woods as well? Aye. They're still there yet. Thousands and thousands of them. Just up by the Bowling Green.
So what did you used to play up there?
Just the usual things. In the days, not like the days now. It was just all fun up there at that time.
Did you play by the canal at all?
That's where we all learned to swim in the canal. There were no bathing pools then, just down skinny dipping in the days.
And who taught you to swim down there? Did
Well,
you
we
teach
used
each
to
other?
teach ourselves. Everybody taught themselves down there. Just sometimes you get flung in and you had to swim. That's how you learned to swim.
Do you have any memories of David Buchanan?
David he had an accordion when his time was in it, and the local dancing, they always played in the dancing. With no music in his books, but the accordion players just allowed him to play, you know, and he was as happy as Larry. Just happy as Larry. What was he in?
Is it Down syndrome that he had?
Down syndrome he
and
had.
do you remember him working in
But
the pits?
he was well known in Twechar, and everybody in Twechar loved him. At that time, Barney Brannan was the leader of the band, Jimmy Sinclair. They got about 30 bob, and there was a collection for Davy. And he got more money than the band leaders. And that was definitely true, definitely true, He was well loved, Davy. He died young, but he had a good number of years with the Twechar people, In fact, we get Davy's house in Burnbrae. When Rose and I get married, we get Davy's house in Burnbrae, 45 Burnbrae. That's just true.
Can you remember, what was the cobbler called?
Colson. That was him that run the buses. It was his father was a cobbler up at the Bully. The wee wedding hut Hamilton's chip shop was next to it. They had a wee chip shop right in the pub shop, and so they got their trade, and the Culver's wee wedding hut was just next to it. But they belonged to the Colsons today. There's quite a lot of the Colsons left in Twechar right enough, quite a few of them.
Was there a barber?
Aye, the drunken barber. He used to come to Kilsyth, and he would sit outside the club, sit outside the pub, and he would cut somebody's hair, and when again he said, "Wee glass of bucket, a glass of wine, and a half pint." When he it's true, when he cut somebody's hair, he was in, and that was the drink. That's how they cried him, the drunken barber.
What were the haircuts like?
Yeah, he was an official barber. He was a barber in Kilsyth, but the drink overtook him, and that's how he finished up. Cutting everybody's hair just for drink.
He could still cut one.
Oh, he was a good barber. Aye, he was a good barber. Aye. He was out there for quite a number of years.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Aye, where's my fee? They're laughing. Oh, for God's sake. Thanks a million, thanks a million.
That's great.
Thanks, sir.
Take me home where the wind is warm and the skies are clear for you. Take